My name's Todd Van Herpe. I run Humboldt Bay Oyster Company. So I am an oyster farmer here on Humboldt Bay and been doing that for quite a while now. All of a sudden turn around and 30 years have gone by. We grow Pacific oysters and Kumamoto oysters, and we also grow Pacific oyster seed to sell to other farms up and down the coast. Well, Humboldt Bay oysters are unique just in the water body that they're from. Everything from rainfall to the nutrients from creeks, the ocean influence and all that give oysters a specific flavor per their place. And you see that in the foodie movements and things like that. That's catching on. People recognize that an oyster from Humboldt Bay tastes differently than an oyster from Washington State or Oregon or Southern California. And it's all based on the water body. It's a unique mix of nutrients and fresh water, salt water, depth, sunlight, all of that. We grow a fantastic Kumamoto oyster up here. There is something about Humboldt Bay that make it really amenable to growing a really nice Kumamoto. We are very well known for those. Not us in particular, specifically, but Humboldt Bay industry in general. Seed oysters are oysters that are immature. They're baby oysters that are basically, when we get them, they're from a hatchery, and we get them at the size of about a sesame seed or a grain of rice, and we take them from there and we grow them to the size of a quarter. And that takes a few steps, but we get them to the size of a quarter, and then we sell those to other farmers up and down the coast that have infrastructure in place to take them from that size to the market size, the edible size. And we also grow the oyster seed ourselves to market size. I got my farm started in 2002. I was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. The gentleman I was working for, my mentor, Ted Kuiper at Kuiper Mariculture, had an opportunity for me to buy a portion of his farm, and I took it. And so I bought the farm, so to speak, and have been doing it ever since. And it's been a long time. You turn around, I'm not 25 anymore, but it's been a good run. It's a good lifestyle, and it's a nice environment to work in. And since 2002, this is the start of our 19th year, and we've done Oyster Festival for 15 years, I think it is, and it's just it's a lifestyle. I came to Humboldt State to get my fisheries degree, and the job ended up being a summer job that I saw on an index card written in pencil. Towards the end of the semester, I had gone to Alaska for a couple of summers and made the money necessary to come back and go to Humboldt. But I had a girlfriend that moved here. She's my wife now, and she was here for the summer, and I wanted to stay, so I was looking for a local job. Waited too long into the semester, and so I thought. But I stumbled across this job announcement for oyster farm technician, which is a nice way of describing grunt labor, muddy, wet, dirty, bloody. It's a rough and tumble job. Sounded right up my alley, and I went for it, and I was fortunate enough to get that job. That summer job turned into an opportunity through the school year to work the hours that I could, learn as much as I could. Worked again the next summer, and once I graduated, I walked into a job managing part of that farm and worked for them for 9 years before the opportunity came to buy it or buy a part of it and go from there on my own. Our bay is unique in that it's shallow. It's got tributaries that run into it from the hills. It's got a big ocean influence, and all of those things combine to make water quality high, productivity, microalgae, and things that the oysters eat very productive. And so oysters grow well. It's clean, and they grow quickly, The depth of the water also contributes because there's a lot of light penetration, so sunlight, it warms the water and grows the algae, and it's like mowing your yard in the summer. You have to do it more often in the summer than you do in the winter, and just like that, the water grows its microalgae the same way. So summer we see a peak, and it dips a little bit in the winter, and there's still growth going on, but not as much. But specific to Eureka, Arcata, Humboldt Bay, we've got a great watershed. There's lots of people out there, good stewards of the watershed that protect the water quality, and we're typically, one of the first groups to know, oyster farmers are, if there's anything amiss in the water. Boats, oil spills, any issues with water quality. We're some of the first to know because we're out there every day. Oyster Festival. I started with the Oyster Festival. It's hard to determine, but about 15 years ago, I think. And admittedly, I got into it sort of begrudgingly. It wasn't one of my fortes, I think. That social, big gathering, big group interaction thing is not mostly my thing. I kind of tend to keep to myself. Makes this job pretty good. But I had a lot of friends, neighbors, family that said, well, you're an oyster farmer, you have to. It's mandatory, isn't it, that you are a part of the Oyster Festival. So they finally talked me into it, and I said, okay, you guys do it with me, and then at the end of the day, I'll show you that it's more work than I'm ready for, and all of that, and than you are anticipating. But sure, let's go, let's do it. And it was hard. It was long. It was fun, fantastic, a mess, chaos, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. We are barely hanging on at the end of the day, barely standing, but all of us have smiles on our face. And my friends and neighbors come up at the end, and I'm sure they're saying, that was great one time, but they said, let's do it again next year. Let's make this a regular thing. And it's been 15 years, and they are such good people that show up and look forward to this. We have entire families that show up, parents and kids that want to help at the booth. They want to grill, they want to shuck, they want to run the register. It's just a super supportive group of people, and the community. It's just, it's such a great event. Sometimes there's too many people to have space for everybody. Not everybody has room, and then around midday when people start getting hungry and tired, it kind of thins out around our booth, and we wonder where everybody went. But then and sometimes that's when there's a long line at the booth, and that's our thing. I always my goal on it was to move oysters across the counter and keep a short line, keep people on that side of the counter happy, and not overly burden the people on my side of the counter. And it's been a great experience. It really, really is. My friends will find it funny that I say that, because I mostly complain and whine about how much prep it is to get ready for. It's a lot of work, but every year at the end of it, it's just so fulfilling to come home and lay down and get that butter and garlic sauce off of you, and take a nap and a shower and a hot tub. It's one of those very good, fulfilling, tired feelings. There's a butter and garlic, that's pretty standard. Some folks aren't super adventurous. There's a lot of people who have never tried them. You run into that a lot, so you don't want to give them any hot sauce or anything too complicated or what have you. So butter garlic is a standard sauce, and we also do a sauce, we call it a cucumber salsa. It's very good. That gets put together a couple of days before the event, so that it's nice and fresh and it's kept cold. It's a cold sauce on a hot oyster, which doesn't seem to go together, but it's pretty popular. I like it a lot. I mean, we won Best Cooked Oyster one year, maybe 6-7 years ago or something like that. So came home with a trophy, which felt really good. And there are people who come every year to our booth, and specifically because of the green cucumber salsa. Yeah, so we have 2 typically, and there have been attempts to take it to a 3rd sauce, and I think I've been reluctant to do that just because of the complications. Give people 2 choices, and it keeps it simple. We got started in 2002, and we were new to the scene. We had bought the farm that was a seed-producing farm that was only certified for growing seed oysters. So the water quality hadn't been assessed and determined to be adequate for consumption. So you have to assume that the oysters that you're growing and selling are going to be eaten raw. Not everybody cooks them. So you have to assume that they're eaten raw. So the water quality has to be top notch. And so we went through that process, took a couple of seasons to get the water quality samples that we needed, and got it certified for growing market size oysters, and did. And we started off in the city, San Francisco, and got our Kumamoto oysters on the menu at a lot of places, and our Pacifics at oyster bars and restaurants and markets down there. We sell to wholesalers, primarily to feel out the industry that we had locally. Scott Sterner at North Bay Shellfish, Sebastian Elright at Aqua Rodeo Farms, Coast Seafoods. All those folks have established markets, and I thought it would be inappropriate to try and crash somebody else's market. I'm into competition. I love that, but I thought that's no way to get off on the right foot in the local industry. So I avoided markets where other people were. So I targeted the Bay Area, and they can sell as much as I can produce on my little farm at 10 times over. So that's really good when restaurants are open. To sell your oysters, that's really good. Right now we're sitting on a lot of product because of the COVID and the closures and all of that, and so we're trying to plant new seed on our farm and keep that process going, but there's nothing meaningful leaving the farm, so we've got a lot of oysters on the farm right now. So we're hoping that the markets and restaurants open up again and start relieving some of the backlog. And I do have local markets as well, Cafe Waterfront, the casinos, other restaurants in town, plus a lot of folks that are going to the lake, going to the river. They'll call me up on their way out of town to see if I've got any oysters. And so, I've got a pretty good local market as well. That was very memorable, winning the best cooked oyster, because I believe in my sauce and I believe in my oysters. My oysters are also carried at other booths at the festival. I mean, I produce probably on average about 35,000 oysters for the festival from our farm, and we run maybe 8,000 or 9,000 through our booth. So when we took the time to enter the contest at the Oyster Festival, and we were selected as winner for Best Cooked Oyster, that was really, really rewarding. Yeah, and got a great Fire and Light trophy that's on my desk at home, and it's a source of pride for me. So that was, very memorable. The difference, the Pacific oyster and the Kumamoto oyster are 2 different species. It was thought 20 years ago that the Kumamoto was a subspecies of the Pacific oyster, but it was determined with genetics that it's a distinct species. The Kumamoto grows much more slowly and to a much smaller maximum size. They get to be maybe 2 inches, the biggest. They're sold at 1 inch to 2 inch, which is a small oyster. It's favored by the raw bar, the raw market. People eat them raw with, just plain, or with a squeeze of lime, or, whatever your condiment is. Pacific oysters can be eaten that way also, because at one point they're all that same size. They're all about 1 to 2 inches. So those are also eaten raw at oyster bars and restaurants. Pacifics, though, continue to grow and can get to be the size of your foot if you leave them long enough. We don't have much of a market for foot-sized oysters, so we sell them, the size of 2 to 3 inch oysters. Actually, they're called festivals because they're the most popular size at Oyster Festival, the 2 to 3 inch Pacific oyster. There is a difference in flavor of Kumamotos and Pacifics. The Kumamotos are said to have a smooth, creamy flavor with a cucumber finish. Pacifics are also described similarly, but they are less sweet. They have the Kumamotos have a sweet flavor to them that apparently the Pacifics do not. Personal preference. A lot of people get some of each, Pacifics and Kumamotos, just for comparison. It's really a great industry and a great community. It's very supportive. Our community is of the oysters. I mean, Oyster Festival is an example of that. People with environmentally savvy interests are all over. So we've got people concerned with water quality and the state of things in the bay. And I think that it's part of Humboldt culture. The Oyster Festival is something not to be missed, not just for locals, but for out-of-towners. It's also, it's just a very good, healthy line of work. You're outside. Not everybody likes that. I was out at 5 this morning with my son, who's been coming to the farm with me since he was, a little dude. He's he's 19 now. He's going off to college. He's at the same age I was when I was going to college here. And, it's just great working next to him, shoulder to shoulder with my kid. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.